she got my birthday cancelled. Now my parents lost everything when my sister demanded my parents cancel my 18th birthday party. I thought it was the worst thing they could do. I was wrong. The birthday they took away. I had just turned 18 a couple of days ago. My parents had promised me a big birthday bash, friends, relatives, cake, decorations, the whole thing. It was supposed to be one of the happiest nights of my life. Instead, I spent the evening alone, sitting in my room, waiting for guests who never came. Why? Because my 23-year-old sister demanded it. She was supposed to leave for New York City with her friends 3 days before my birthday. But severe storms in the Midwest canceled all flights, and her trip got postponed. She was furious, and when my sister is upset, the whole house goes silent. My parents have always tiptoed around her. She's the golden child, the delicate one whose feelings must be protected at all costs. On the morning of my birthday, she told my parents that if she couldn't have fun, neither could I. She didn't want any celebrations happening while she was upset. And my parents? They didn't even hesitate. They sent out messages to every guest, canceling the party. I found out hours later, still sitting in my room, wondering why no one had arrived by 7 p.m. My parents finally told me they'd canceled without even asking me, because my sister wasn't in the right state of mind. To make things worse, they lied to everyone else, saying I was sick and had a migraine, and asked them not to text me until the next day. That's why not a single friend reached out. When they told me, something inside me snapped. I screamed at them, years of resentment boiling over. I'd always been told to compromise for my sister's sake, to give her the last slice of pizza, to avoid buying clothes she might like, to wear her hand-me-downs. But this was too far. Even then, the only thing they cared about was keeping my voice down so my sister wouldn't wake from her nap. Eventually, she came downstairs and defended them, saying I was spoiled and entitled for wanting a party while she was suffering. I lost it. We shouted, cursed, and it turned physical when I grabbed her hair. My parents broke us apart, but in the chaos, we didn't hear the doorbell. When the door finally opened, my grandfather was standing there. My paternal grandfather is a man everyone in the family respects, and fears, a retired lawyer with a reputation for being brutally fair. He asked what was going on, and for once, I told the truth. All of it. The favoritism, the years of being treated like an afterthought, and the fact that my 18th birthday had been cancelled because of my sister's whining. I expected him to say I was being dramatic. Instead, his face hardened. It turns out he'd been sending my parents money every month for years to keep their business afloat, and he'd paid for my birthday party himself. Hearing how they'd treated me, especially after all he'd done, enraged him. He told my parents they had let him down and that it was obvious I'd been damaged by their favoritism. My sister tried to justify herself, but Grandpa shut her down, calling her the epitome of entitlement and reminding her the world didn't revolve around her. Then he turned to me and said, "Pack your bags. You're coming with me." My parents didn't protest, at least, not about losing me. They were furious because Grandpa also told them he'd no longer be supporting them financially. 10 minutes later, I was in his car, leaving without looking back. That night, as we drove to his home, he apologized. "I should have done this a long time ago," he said. I didn't know what he meant yet. But I would soon. The truth my parents hid. Living with my grandfather was like stepping into a different world. His home was quiet, clean, and, most importantly, free of my sister's constant shadow. For the first time in years, I could breathe. Within a few days, Grandpa revealed what he had meant in the car when he said he should have done this a long time ago. He told me the real reason my parents had treated me like an unwanted guest in my own home. Originally, they had planned to have only one child, my sister. 5 years later, my mother became pregnant with me by accident. They intended to terminate the pregnancy, but my father told my maternal grandparents, who pressured them to keep me, calling me a blessing. Then, when my mother was 8 months pregnant, tragedy struck. My maternal grandparents were in a horrific car accident and both died after weeks in the hospital. My mom had a breakdown, convinced my existence had brought her bad luck. She was briefly institutionalized before returning home, but my parents' resentment never faded. They even planned to put me up for adoption after I was born. Only my paternal grandparents stopped them, forcing my parents to raise me. I sat there in shock, realizing I'd spent my life being punished for something that wasn't my fault. And it all made sense now: the favoritism, the coldness, the way my sister was always placed above me. Grandpa admitted he'd known for years but hadn't stepped in sooner. He'd been caring for my terminally ill grandmother, and after she passed away, he was consumed by grief. Hearing this hurt, but at least now I understood. The fake apologies. Meanwhile, my parents started texting me constantly. They claimed they had put my sister first because she was more delicate and I was strong enough to handle it. They wanted me to come home, but I knew it was only because they wanted Grandpa's financial support back. So I set a condition: I would only return if my sister moved out. She was 23, had been working for 2 years, and had no excuse to still be living at home. My parents called me ridiculous and heartless. I didn't care. I had no intention of going back even if they agreed. I just wanted to see if they valued my sister more than the money. The confrontation. A week later, while leaving school, I saw my sister waiting outside. The sight instantly put me on edge. I asked my friend, who happened to be a big, built football player, to walk me home. He knew everything about my family situation and didn't hesitate. She followed us in silence until I turned and confronted her. She said our parents told her about my condition for returning and accused me of being extremely unfair. I threw her own logic back at her. If I can't be happy, neither can you. That was the same reasoning she'd used to get my birthday cancelled. I turned to leave, but she started screaming, calling me a horrible human being. When I ignored her, she attacked, pushing me to the ground, backpack and all. Within seconds, my friend had pulled her off me like she weighed nothing. Fueled by months of frustration, I walked up and slapped her hard. "Touch me again, and I'll report you to the cops," I warned. She didn't follow us after that. That night, I told Grandpa everything. He wanted to call the police immediately, but I told him it wasn't worth it. She'd learned her lesson. Then I finally told him about the condition I'd given my parents. He laughed, saying it was clever and that they deserved it. The final break. 2 days later, my parents texted me with their decision. They would keep my sister at home and no longer wanted me back. They'd found a new investor, my mother's older brother, so they didn't need Grandpa's money. I think they expected me to be hurt, but I felt nothing. I didn't even reply. A few hours later, they sent another message saying they were blocking me because I was violent, ungrateful, and horrible. Violent for slapping my sister, ignoring that she'd attacked me first. Ungrateful because, according to them, they'd raised me, fed me, clothed me, and sent me to school. As if doing the bare minimum made them saints. Before they could block me, I blocked them. From that moment, I was done. Cutting them off for good. Life with my grandfather quickly settled into a peaceful rhythm. He kept his word, covering all my expenses and supporting my college applications. Offers from several good schools began to arrive, and I was still waiting on responses from my top choices. I'd be living with him until September, when I'd move for college. In the meantime, we were learning how to share a home. Sometimes, I still felt flashes of anger at him for not taking me away sooner, but we talked through it. He admitted he regretted not stepping in earlier, and I could see he was trying to make it right now. The family fallout. Word about what had happened began to spread. On my father's side, the reaction was swift. Most relatives cut contact with my parents entirely. My grandfather made sure people knew exactly why. My mother's side stayed loyal to her, but they'd never been a big part of my life anyway. For years, I'd stayed silent about the favoritism, thinking no one would care or believe me. But now, the truth was out, and my parents were facing the consequences. They were ostracized, not just by family, but by old friends who couldn't stomach how they treated me. I didn't feel guilty. This wasn't revenge, it was simply the truth finally catching up to them. My sister's situation. I hadn't heard from my sister directly since the street confrontation, but news reached me that she had finally moved out and was living on her own. I didn't know why she'd left, but I suspected my parents' finances, and her part in losing Grandpa's support, had something to do with it. I didn't care enough to find out more. For the first time in my life, my happiness didn't hinge on anything she said or did. A new chapter. Graduation came, and my prom date was none other than my friend, the same one who had helped me face my sister. By then, he wasn't just my protector, he was my boyfriend. We spent the summer enjoying weekends together before I'd head off to college. My new social circle was nothing like the tense, conditional relationships I'd grown up with. These were friends who celebrated my wins without jealousy, who cared about me without strings attached. Forgiveness without return. Over time, I forgave my grandfather for his inaction when I was younger. People make mistakes, and while his delay had cost me years of peace, he was the only one stepping up for me now. He'd given me a safe home, emotional support, and the means to start my adult life without depending on my parents. I had no intention of forgiving my parents in the same way. Blocking them was the final act of self-preservation I needed. I'd spent too long trying to earn their approval that was never going to come. My final thoughts. If my parents ever try to contact me again, I doubt I'll respond. They made it clear where I stood in their lives, and I've accepted it. My sister's role in all of this was simply the last straw. The birthday she ruined was just the most obvious example of the years they spent treating her like royalty and me like a burden. I'm happier now than I've ever been. I have my grandfather, my boyfriend, a place in a college I'm excited about, and a circle of people who actually respect me. Sometimes, the family you need isn't the one you're born into, it's the one you choose, and the one that chooses you back. Because once you realize you don't owe loyalty to people who've only ever hurt you, freedom comes easy.